Hi all, and glad that you could be with me. I don't know who's going to be with me because right at this moment I have had a rush day, and I've committed myself around 3 o'clock on a Tuesday here in Adelaide to do a live feed, and I was so involved in other things I had to do today that I just pushed it out till 3:30. So don't know whether anybody's going to join me. Don't care. Oh yes, I do. I love it. The whole purpose of us getting together is so that we as a community can talk about the things that matter to all of us. And I just want to say at the beginning, of course, please subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell for further notifications. Do what you need to do. Really wanted to have, and if I don't get a lot of people joining, that's fine. But I just wanted to say a couple of things. Number one, I am very disorganised today, so who knows how this is going to go. Normally I have a range of things to talk about, but today I've spent some time watching some guys put some boxes on the wall so that they could upgrade my internet to fibre, which will be great, and it would improve the connections and a few other downloads and stuff that I do. So that's the reason. Hi, Sean. Good to see you there. And also, Mark, thanks for joining in, guys. And I hope more of you join in as we have this conversation. I do need to say, too, that tomorrow at 2:30 Australian Central Standard Time, I'm doing a live feed with Avery Hilditch, where Avery is going to talk religion. So tune in for that. If you've got a question and I want to have an argument with Avery about any perspective that is based on religion, then that will be your opportunity to do so. And I'm going to sit back, just ask Avery a few questions and let it go, because it will be fun watching Avery being tackled by you in terms of any questions that you may have or any things that you may disagree with him on. He's extremely passionate about this topic, and so and I promised him for some time that we'll do a live feed on my channel in relation to that. So it'll be fun to see how that works out tomorrow, 2:30 South Australian time. So, but today, really what I want to talk to you about is the peace deal in the Middle East. Because so I just want to give you an overview, perhaps, of what I think about all of that. Number one, I guess Trump and his administration need to be congratulated for having created the opportunity at this point for the hostages to be returned. I think that's wonderful. Trump, I don't doubt whether Trump really needs or should get a Nobel Peace Prize for any of this, primarily because I reckon doing what he's now doing in the United States, turning it into some sort of autocracy, would disqualify him. I don't know whether a Nobel Peace Prize has ever been awarded to anybody who was a dictator. So it is unlikely in the future that he will be awarded such a prize. I was very disappointed to hear that the woman who won the prize sent some descriptive comments to Trump about how grateful she was for the work that he had done in terms of supporting her in Venezuela. Yet, you know, and I'm not 100% sure about the history between her and Trump in terms of what she has done in regard to supporting her. But I would be surprised if there was actual support, given number one, she's a woman, and number two, she's not a dictator like the dude that's in control in Venezuela at the moment. So, but nevertheless, she did, I think, probably the right thing by at least acknowledging him in terms of all those 7-8 wars now, I think, that he's been able to resolve. And the fact that I think that he has done at least some good. The question is, and look, I need to say, does it hurt me to say anything complimentary about Donald Trump? Yes, it does, to be frank. He is a buffoon. and how he was able to get to this point with regard to Israel agreeing to this, I will never know. The only suggestion I can make is that he was able to say to Netanyahu, enough's enough, we've all had enough. The world pressure, there's a lot of pressure from around the world in relation to this, and maybe, just maybe, that came into play, and there seemed to be pressure on him, and the tide was definitely turning in the United States, particularly in relation to the Israeli lobby and the power they had over Republicans. And so it is likely that he got wind of that. And Trump is very good at sort of reading the tea leaves, if you like. He does tend to understand what is the most populist position to take, and he takes the most populist position as harmful as that might ever be. But that's what he does, or he takes the position of the last person in the room. So, and maybe under these circumstances, that's what Trump did, and it paid off in the end because he told Netanyahu, bugger it, mate, you can't bomb this place anymore. You're causing too much destruction and too many people are dying. Not that he would care too much about the number of people that had died, but nevertheless, he was able to persuade Netanyahu to stop it for the time being. There are a number of commentators. There are a number of commentators, though, who are saying we must remind ourselves that this is only the first stage. JGB, good to see you there, mate. And we must try and understand, I think, that it is just that. It's just the first stage, that there are 4 or 5 other stages that we need to go through. And as someone said on one of the broadcasts I saw, I think it was the ABC, there's a good chance that Netanyahu will just, once now the hostages have been returned, goal accomplished. That's all that the people in Israel, his constituents, were worried about. And they will continue to bomb the shit out of what is left of Gaza and endeavour to eradicate the Palestinian people. Because I wonder what deal Netanyahu made with the extreme right in his cabinet. Because, and I don't know what you guys think about that, but the extreme right were unhappy with the deal in the first place, apparently. I wasn't there. No one consulted me. I'm just going on reports, obviously, that I've heard. But I don't know why I wasn't invited, quite frankly. If you want to look for a superior intellect, well, clearly I'm the place to go. But what I do understand is the extreme right weren't happy with the arrangement. But my guess is that Netanyahu probably told them, let's see if I'm right. Let's see if I'm the Nostradamus of Australia. And it is true that Netanyahu was able to persuade the right, they're not even in his party, but the right in the cabinet to go along with the plan, because once the hostages have been returned, he will continue to bombard the crap out of them. Maybe that is what will happen. Who knows? Have a conversation about it. I don't know what you guys think about this. Then someone says, I'll give it 3 days max, then the mopping up starts. That's Mark. Thanks, Mark. Part of my software's not working here, but I'll see if I can bring that up. Yep, thanks, Mark. I'll give 3 days, then the mopping up starts. Now, Mark, what mopping up are you referring to? Is the mopping? No, mopping up. It's a massive task, is it not? Because you have this place, of some 20. I don't know how big it is. What is it? 30, 40 kilometres? I don't know. But you have this massive place that's got to be cleared of all the rubble and stuff before they even think about rebuilding them. And then they have to house, accommodate, feed, 1.5, 2 million people. So the first thing, I guess, is to keep people alive. That's the most important. But education and ancillary services don't come second or third. Maybe I don't know what does come second or third, but I guess it's about trying to ensure that whatever conflict still exists in Gaza between uh, other organisations within Gaza, some splinter groups of Hamas, um, and whether or not someone's going to keep them at bay, or whether one decides, like the Israeli government decides, that the best thing to do is to get rid of Hamas altogether. And I don't know how you do that. So is the theory still there present that to get rid of Hamas, you don't need to destroy all buildings, find all tunnels. No need to do that so much anymore because the hostages have been released. So where do they go? What do the people of Palestinian think about all of this? What do they want? I can honestly say that I haven't heard anything that clearly articulates what is in the Palestinians' best interest. Haven't heard a razoo. And if you have, let me know. But I think, as I was just saying, the thing the Palestinians want more than anything else is just their freedom. But how do you? The question for me is, how do you live a life that is just so totally destroyed? No housing, very little food, no prospects, no educational opportunities, no health services because the hospitals have been destroyed, no doctors because they've either been taken by the IDF or killed. What happens next? This is the problem. What does happen next? And are they hoping that when they open up the border to Egypt, that people will just flow through that border and try and evacuate Gaza as best as they can to find another hell spot in which to live? Is that the plan? Don't know. And one of the other issues that really does bug me, which is so wrong, is that the media, the Western media, haven't had an opportunity to investigate or to be present or to witness what the IDF have been doing. No one, and then following from all of that, Netanyahu won't go to Egypt because Egypt have an arrangement with the ICC to arrest him. So he's locked away. There's some countries that he won't be able to go to, apart from America, who aren't signatories to the criminal court. So he won't go anywhere. So what happens next? Does it mean then that other people, that there will be war crimes issued against, and Netanyahu's not the only one. There's some members of the cabinet and defence ministers and stuff that also get caught up in all that crap. So does that mean then that there will be more war crimes against those people that committed the crimes once the Palestinian people have a chance to tell their story and to let the world know exactly what was happening to them? Maybe that's the next thing that will unfold. And how will the IDF and the Israel government try to protect those people from... See, the truth eventually has to come out somehow. And when it does, I wonder whether the world is all that prepared for what we may hear. We've seen the devastation, which to us is just buildings collapsing, and we've seen people rushed off to hospitals, and I've seen interviews with some doctors that were involved and what they experienced. But there are more stories to be told. There's probably hundreds of thousands of different stories that could be told about what the IDF have done. Are there videos of the IDF shooting children? Probably. The IDF have got a lot of their own videos of the horrors that they have brought upon this population. They've got their own, thousands of them. Will they come to the fore? There's so many questions here, man. So many questions. I've been watching some videos on that Al Jazeera did and Satiro did on Israel. And one of the interesting things for me was that the Israelis are divided. There's so many Israelis who just hate Palestinians, just hate them, brought up, bred to hate. I think they're revolting people. I don't give a about them. The fact that they're mostly Jews is irrelevant. They're just revolting people. And then there are a group of people who just were desperate for the hostages to be returned. That was their priority. That's all they cared about. And that's now happened. And then there's another group, which I suspect is a smaller group, who are concerned about what their government has done to a neighbour, and who feel a great deal of empathy for the Palestinian people. Now that group, I wonder whether they will have a voice, whether there's anybody that's going to listen to them at all, whether people really care about what they think, or with those other two groups, the hostage returning group, that's dispensed with, they're fine. Where do they fall? They probably hate the Palestinians because of Hamas anyway. And then there's this other group. The group there, the youth walk through the West Bank, closing the streets as they go through. And not all that long ago, got hold of a Palestinian and hung him, who beat up and abused women and children, and who keeps shouting death to Palestinians. So there's that group as well. So there's so much hate in Israel. And it's not on religious lines necessarily, but there just seems to be so much hate towards Arabs. So then one's got to ask, well, how significant is it that the AEU, Arab states, Egypt, and others, Turkey, have been, and I think even Indonesia was involved somehow, being the largest Muslim country, or has the largest population of Muslim people in the world. So what do the Jewish people, or I should say the Israel, what do the people in Israel think about the fact that this has been brought together by a bunch of Muslims? It does make you wonder, doesn't it? It really does. So Mark says, did you see Trump speak? I tell you what, Mark, I'm going to be quite frank here. And why wouldn't I be? I don't know why that did that. I'll have to try again. I didn't see that. No. And I'll tell you why I didn't. I could have. I knew it was up. And I have heard commentary about it, Mark. But I am so over Donald Trump. I'm so over... and so I did hear someone say it just sounded like a political rally, and that was about it. And maybe it did. I don't know. But I just wish there's so much more disaster to come as a result of Trumpism. It now intrigues me that people like Marjorie Taylor Greene have started to sniff the roses and realise that things are not as they should be. This is in relation to the shutdown and the impact it's going to have on millions of people, particularly those people that work for the government, and also on Medicare and Medicaid. So there just seems to be, to find a word actually which describes how I feel about Donald Trump is something I struggle to do. I don't like using the word hate because that's extremely intense. Wary is too light and fluffy. resent. Well, I don't know why resent would resent him, but if you think of another word to describe Trump accurately, apart from the word hate, let me know, because I do struggle. I think he's an abomination. I think he's a revolting individual. I think he's hell-bent on applying the principles of Project 2025 to the nth degree, even though he himself doesn't understand what in the hell it's all about. He's only a puppet. He's only a puppet to the puppet masters, who are those people that wrote Project 2025 in the first place. Voight, for example. So, what will happen to the extreme right? Will they continue to dominate, and will people at the end of the day revolt? I think, this is kind of changing subjects a wee bit. I actually think that at the end of the day, it will be too late for a revolt. That will be the Americans, not the Australians. The Americans will be forced into a position whereby they just won't be able to find a way out, regardless of the number of people who would vote against Trump, because he is just as likely to cancel any elections in the future. That is what he is likely to do. Someone did. Oh, Anne, thanks for that. I forgot about this. This is supposed to be your session, not supposed to be about me talking about it. But Anne says 1,700 of the Palestinian hostages released by Israel has been imprisoned without charge, Christian Samaritan among them. Yes, and what did interest me was that the number of people that were released was only 1/10 of the number of people that have been incarcerated by the IDF, and that we don't refer to those people. We refer to them as detainees, I think. So we refer to one group as hostages and the other group as detainees. But you, Anne, have described it appropriately, because you've referred to them as Palestinian hostages. They are not detainees. They are hostages, and many of them have not been tried for any crime. But that's where they are, because they objected to the Israeli government. And it's sad, I think, extremely sad, that the people within Israel don't rise up against the numbers of incarcerations. And what does this tell us about, this is kind of changing subject from where I was around Trump, but what does this tell us about the mentality? What does it tell us about the way the Israelis think about their government? I mean, I know that Netanyahu isn't popular, but what does it tell us that they would accept the incarceration of a whole lot of Palestinians, women and children, and a lot of young men, and not find that they're answerable to their incarceration at all? It's horrible. It's horrible. And I guess my point is that it's quite fascinating, I think, to some extent, that that's where the United States is going. That United States will eventually try and convince the masses that arresting black and brown people because they're black and brown is the right thing to do, and that most of them are criminals when they're not criminals. What's the difference between that sort of way of dealing with the issues than what the Israeli government has been doing for decades in relation to those people in the West Bank and Gaza? No different. So do you think that Netanyahu has handed over the handbook to Trump and to Project 2025, saying this is how it is, So we refer to Erdogan, and we refer to other leaders around the world who are dictators or authoritarian, and say, well, the handbook's been handed on now to Trump. Let's see how it works in what was supposed to be one of the greatest democracies on this planet. Let's see what this experiment that we call democracy in the United States, a Republican democracy, let's see how that works out. Well, right at the moment, it's failing. For 230, 40 years or whatever it is, it's been relatively successful. And now you get the clown in and it fails. What's the reason for that? Mark says Trump is for Trump and no one else. Couldn't agree more. And overload of Trump. Actually, I agree with that, Mark. I've had it with him. There's some issues in Australia at the moment that are worth noting, I think, which we don't talk about because this thing dominates. It dominates everywhere. Trump's like a boil on your ass, you know. Every time you sit down, you know it's there, and there's a pain in the neck. And but you know, in Australia, there are things happening. I'm doing a piece later on there's a group called what in the hell are they called now? There's a right wing podcaster whose name I never really understand. The group's called The Other Side. I don't know if anybody's ever seen the podcasts. They're quite well put together. A little bit zappier than mine. Clearly, they've got more money to spend than what I have. But they're attacking the left, and they made this outlandish statements around where the right's coming from and what does the right stand for and what does the left stand for. And it was really bizarre because as the guy was describing the right, I thought he was talking about the left. He was talking about equity and fairness and a whole host of other shit. And I'm thinking, well, yet here, the left, the progressives, are the people such as myself who clearly are violent. I was going to do a video, a satirical video, which I might still do, but they take a long time to organise. But I was going to do one on I Am Antifa. And just wonder whether ASIO would start knocking on my door and arresting me. They might if I was in the United States. The CIA might even travel to Australia to get me if I decide that I'm Antifa. So I want to do this one where I suggest for a moment that I am the leader of Antifa, and I was going to put a picture of a building with Antifa HQ across it, and let people know that, you know, if you want to find the organisation Antifa, which the United States are desperately trying to do, they've outlawed Antifa as a terrorist group, which is an interesting thing to do, given that there's no such thing. But maybe if I declared myself as Antifa, so the Tony Tompkins show, tell it like it is Antifa. Maybe we'll get some action. Maybe they'll start to take us seriously, because I want them. Okay, if you have a terrorist organisation and they're in your country, clearly that must mean that you need to arrest the person who's in charge. So they're chasing Soros, which will never work anyway. But if Osama bin Laden was in the United States, they would find him, they'd capture him, they'd arrest him. Well, eventually they executed him. But nevertheless, if he was in the United States, they would have done all those things, locked him up in Guantanamo Bay, that place, wherever it is, and tried him and then executed him. Right? They could have done that because they knew that he was the leader. Because he's got up and said, "I am the leader." Anybody who and they know who who's in charge of Hamas, because they have a structure, they have a place. They had a building in which they were doing their thing because Israel decided to bomb it. Didn't kill the guy. They killed an Israeli guard, but didn't kill anyone from Hamas. So, but because we know that they attack the places in which these people are supposed to be housed. We know who these organisations are. We know who runs them. We know what is in charge. We all know that sort of shit. So, I am Antifa. And I would suggest that you come and get me. Only because it'd be fun to see. JGB, that makes me laugh. Imagine declaring, I'll put it up. Because I think it'd be great. it'd be an interesting thing. I reckon it'd be an interesting thing to do. Oh, my thing's not working again. Imagine declaring yourself as an anti-fascist and then get labelled as a terrorist. They're right. There's a degree of weirdness, I think, about that. So I'm anti-fascist, so therefore I could be referred to as Antifa. I am declaring that I am the leader of this group. I'm right. So I could have someone come up and arrest me for being the leader of this group. So the irony there is that a fascist organisation that I would declare as fascist came and arrested me for fascism. I mean, I just think that's unbelievably bizarre. But it's not out of the realms of possibility, because someone might, like, there are so many crazy people out there. You kind of wonder who's going to knock on your door one day and say, I saw you. You declared that you're Antifa. Therefore, because it's on the internet, it must be true. And as a result of that, I'm going to arrest you. So I might do that video on Antifa. I thought I could do one whereby I take a front picture of Parliament House and put Antifa HQ across the front of that. There's so much that one could do to declare that you're Antifa. Tony Antifa. Yep. So, and I was thinking of how to describe it. So you could Antifa, which is Ifida. So can someone tell me what Ifida stands for? And IFA. Is it ant? I'm trying to get this right. So I belong to a group called IFA. If you could tell me what this group is that I belong to called IFA, I would be really delighted to know, because I'm in charge. And so all of us progressives, so it's coming back to this this group, which I'll be doing a podcast on later. I've just got to organise it. But there's this group, right-wing group, was so focused on the fact, and don't you get tired of this, that the left wing are violent. I know a number of people who I watch, who I know who are left wing, who are progressive. Like, I would consider that in Australia the Labor Party are in some ways progressive, not totally, because I don't agree with everything they do. But are more progressive than... So when you think progressive, you got to think, what am I comparing that with? Well, we're comparing it with the Liberal Party, or even further right, One Nation. Now, you've got to admit that there are crazy people on both sides of the spectrum, right? So let's accept that there are crazy people on the right, there are crazy people on the left. There are violent people on the right, there are violent people maybe on the left. I don't know. I can see the crazy people on the right, because particularly in the United States, they're the ones with the guns, and they're the ones that are taking people off the streets, and you can see them. In Australia, you can't necessarily see them, but you hear them, because you hear them talking about the violent left. And the only place in which this does happen in Australia, apparently, is protests. So one of these videos I was watching today was talking about the 19th of this month, Sunday. There's a protest in around Australia on migration, and the conversation with these right-wing people has always been about there's always violence perpetrated by the left. Now, I don't know whether that means that there are people wandering around with a sign across their chest or across their forehead saying, I belong to the left of politics and therefore I'm violent. The reality is that the violence that occurred at some of these rallies were by the Nazis and by the police endeavouring to put a stop to some of the things the Nazis were saying and doing. And then the right busily decry the Nazis as being a fringe. So, but they don't talk about who's on the left. So I guess on one hand you've got the Nazis on the right and you've got Antifa. See, we know who the Nazis are because they're the guys dressed in black, doing goose steps and carrying Nazi flags and with masks on. So we know that they're the Nazis. On the other side, we've got my group, the people that I belong to, that I run, because I'm the chief executive officer of this group, called Antifa. So we've got Antifa on the other side. The problem that we have is that this Antifa group are only known by the slogans that they're shouting or the Palestinian flags that they're holding. So, and often they're known because I've been told, anyway, I don't know how true this is, but I should know this because this is my group, that they are young. So this is the group. And the other thing too I wanted to say was that the right wing had declared. So in this thing, which I've got to play it now that I've talked about it, but one of the commentators there was talking about the fact that the left wing have taken over everything. And so the left wing, believe it or not, this is amazing. I was really impressed to hear this, that the left wing have taken over the media. So his organisation, this podcast he was doing, were pushing back against all of that. Sky News obviously pushed back against all of that. But apparently the left of politics is 9, Channel 9, 10, 7. Of course, it's the ABC. Naturally, they're all on the left, and I'm curious as to how they define that. I don't know what sort of formula or algorithm they use to work out who's what and where all those people are, but somehow they've got it all figured. So anyway, so the left are sitting over there and they're being aggressive and they're violent, right? We know that. Well, we don't know that. They're Antifa, whoever they are, but we identify them as Antifa simply because they're not the same as the guys in the black outfit with the masks doing the salutes and carrying those funny Nazi flags. They're not the same as them, so that's different. And they're the ones that are shouting. So the ones on the other side over here on the left, they're the ones shouting out for equality. They're the ones that are shouting out for fairness. They're the ones that are calling out the harm and the damage that they're doing, that the other side is doing. They're the ones that are standing up for the vulnerable people. But according to this guy, he was saying that they're the qualities that actually belong to the right. So the bloody left, the bastards, have stolen all of those qualities that we think should be on the right. The left have stolen the fucking lot. So we're now left without, so the poor old right are left without nothing to fight with. And the point is that the Australian people are now, this is the bit, wait for it folks, this is the bit that got me. The Australian people are waking up to it. Did you know that? I was devastated. Apparently, my group that I'm the chief executive officer for and run the organisation, and IFA, they are losing power because the population has now decided that this other group on the right have all the answers. In fact, the truth is that they've got so many of the answers. They're so correct in what they're thinking now, the population, that they elect... Hold on. So who did they elect? Now this can't be right. Because the population, of which 95% vote, adult population, they chose in a landslide election a party that is not as right as what this guy was telling me that the population doesn't make sense. There's an election recently that demonstrated to all of us that population isn't thinking, the left have taken over everything, they run the media. Oh, the education system. That was the other thing. So apparently, now I don't know how long universities have been around. My guess is that they've been around since the 13th, 14th century, but clearly not in Australia. But anyway, the universities and the education system have been busily indoctrinating people. So what this means is that teachers go off to teachers' school, and if they had a right-wing leaning version of the world before they go to teachers' school, they now get convinced that any conversation they have with a student has to have a left-wing narrative. Got it? So, education systems no longer are systems in which they offer freedom of thought. They don't provide an opportunity to learn what rational thinking, hold on, they don't get to understand what critical thinking is. No, they are brainwashed to believe that whatever sits on the left is the answer to everything. And therefore children grow up believing that. And then because this must be happening for generations, then they pass that down. Now, I don't know where this notion was for the 9 years that Liberal Party were in power. It must have been a glitch. There must have been something happening with this system that failed to have allowed people to have voted for Howard in particular, for God's sake, and then Abbott. How in the hell that happened, I'll never know. So, I'm struggling with trying to understand the rationale behind all of this, and maybe you can help me. Look, there's been a so have we all? What is it? Have we all just become woke? Is that the issue? Whatever woke means, I don't know what woke means. I prefer to be awake than asleep. I can tell you that now. So if woke means that you're alert and you're awake and you're prepared for whatever's coming, then I'm quite happy for that. So let me know what you think about all of that. That was quite a ramble. Let me know what you think of all of that. Please remember to subscribe to my channel, ring the bell for further notifications. I love your comments. I've had some great comments recently, particularly about Jordan Peterson. But keep them coming in. There'll be more posts to come, and I look forward to sharing them all with you. So I need to say thanks everybody for being here. Thanks for all your comments. Keep the conversation going amongst yourself. In the meantime, take care. Look after yourselves, okay?